Horror Fan TV. If you haven't, please subscribe. Got lots of videos on the way. I'll put some links in the description. And let's get into the story. On August 20th, 1989, José and Mary Louise, Kitty Menendez, were shot to death in their Beverly Hills home. Nearly 7 years, 3 trials, and thousands of hours of TV coverage. Their sons, Lyle and Eric Menendez, would be found guilty of their murders and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But how did we get here? Let's dive into the story. You will also see the house as it stands in 2024. The Menendez family seemed to be a perfect model of the American dream. José was born in Cuba, and he immigrated to the US as a teenager after the Cuban Revolution of the 1950s. He was living in the attic of a cousin's home until he earned a college scholarship for swimming. In college, it would be where he would meet his future wife, Mary Louise Anderson, a beauty pageant queen who everyone called Kitty. They married in the early 1960s and moved to New York City. This would be where José would earn an accounting degree from Queens College. José would rise from washing dishes to working as a successful young entertainment executive. The couple's first son, Joseph Lyle, was born on January 10th, 1968 in New York. Kitty would quit her teaching job after Lyle was born, and the family would move to New Jersey. New Jersey is where Eric Gallen was born on November 27, 1970. The family would eventually move to Calabasas, California in the 80s. And then from Calabasas, which is a suburb in Los Angeles, the family would eventually move to Beverly Hills after the brothers were caught breaking into houses in the neighborhood of Calabasas. In 1987, Eric would attend high school in Beverly Hills. When Eric attended Beverly Hills High School, he had average grades, but developed and showed a talent for tennis, ranking 44th in the US as a junior. At the same time, Lyle was attending Princeton University, but was placed on academic probation for poor grades and eventually suspended for plagiarism. Let's go back a little bit. José's career was started in the early 80s as the head of RCA Records, and he had a hand in signing bands such as Duran Duran, The Eurythmics, and Menudo. Menudo, a band we would get back to later in this video. The house where José and Kitty were killed was located in one of the most exclusive blocks in Beverly Hills, and it was occupied at different times by Michael Jackson and Elton John. On the evening of August 20th, 1989, José and Kitty were standing in the den of their Beverly Hills mansion when Lyle and Eric entered the den carrying shotguns. José was shot 6 times, including a fatal shot in the back of the head with a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun. Kitty was shot 10 times in total. Before the fatal shot to her cheek, she was on the ground slowly crawling and crying. Lyle ran to his car to reload before firing the fatal shot to her face. Immediately after the killings, both brothers remained in the house expecting the police to respond due to the noise of the gunshots. The younger brother Eric would be the one who dialed 911. And the brothers would eventually tell the police that they had gone out to see a movie, Tim Burton's Batman, and to an event in Santa Monica, but they had to make a pit stop to retrieve Eric's ID, and that's when supposedly they saw the parents' bodies. The officers claimed that when they got there, that Eric, who was 18 at the time, was sobbing on the lawn. The killings were so horrible that the police thought at first it was a mob hit, and then they were looking at business rivals of José. And you would think that the brothers would be sad, but they acted like 2 guys who had just won the lottery. José was worth $14 million at the time of his death, and within 6 months, the brothers spent an estimated $700,000 of his fortune. Lyle, who was ambitious and young, who was 21 at the time of the killings, purchased a Rolex, a Porsche, lots of clothing. But Eric was different. He purchased a Jeep Wrangler, invested $50,000 in a personal tennis coach and $40,000 in an investment for a rock concert that never took place. They were even going on vacations everywhere. But it wasn't enough. They even tried to cash out on their $5 million life insurance on their dad, but were unable to collect it. After the killings, Eric would start speaking to his therapist, Dr. Roselle. And soon enough, Eric would confess to killing his parents. And these events would change everything. Dr. Roselle would start confiding in Judah Lon Smith, whom he was having an affair with. She would play a big part in this case and would basically bring down the demise of the brothers. As the therapy sessions continued, Roselle ultimately got both Eric and Lyle on tape, confessing to the killings. Eric said that they had done it to put their mother out of her misery, while Lyle made it clear that they were both in on the crime. Smith and Roselle had a rocky relationship. She claimed that he was controlling and abusive, and after he allegedly attacked her, Smith finally contacted the police to let them know that the Menendez brothers confessed to their parents' murder. She even had an audio tape of the confessions. Lyle was arrested on March 8, 1990. Eric, who was in Israel at the time, flew to Miami and then Los Angeles, where he turned himself in to the police on March 11, 1990. One big controversial part of the case was that these confessions fell under doctor and patient privileges, or were they admissible as evidence in court? This would take 2 years, with lawsuits and appeals flying back and forth between Menendez lawyers and the prosecution. Ruled that 2 of the 3 tapes were eligible to be used in the trial, including the one that contained Lyle's admission of guilt. This Menendez case would become a national sensation when Court TV started broadcasting the trial in 1993. For the trial, each brother was trialed individually, and the trial ended with 2 deadlocked juries. As a result of this, Los Angeles County District Attorney at the time, Gil Garcetti, immediately announced that the brothers would be retried. The second trial would be less publicized because of Judge Stanley Weisberg did not allow cameras in the courtroom. During the second trial, Weisberg relied on a legal decision by the Supreme Court in an unrelated case, limiting the testimony of the sexual abuse claims. And he did not allow the jury to vote on manslaughter charges instead of murder charges. This second trial would take place in 1995 and was less sensational. The judge ruled that there was insufficient evidence that Jose had abused his sons, which was central to the defense claim. But, of course, that defense claim was not enough. Both Lyle and Eric were convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder on March 21st, 1996. They were sentenced to life without parole, each receiving 2 consecutive life terms that July. They were even convicted on conspiracy to murder,